The Rabbi asks in the Sikha, this question is really a broad question that's brought down in Chassidus, but in the Sikha the Rabbi discusses this question in great detail. It says in the Parsha, right in the beginning, Eile Toldos Yitzchak ben Avraham. These are the generations or the developments, however we translate it, of Yitzchak, the son of Avraham. Avraham hoired es Yitzchak. Avraham gave birth to Yitzchak. And Rashi right away comments on this, that what is this repetition about? Avraham, Yitzchak ben Avraham, if he's Abraham's son, clearly Avraham gave birth to him. This is for extra emphasis. For whatever reason, we're giving extra emphasis that Avraham hated this Yitzchak. And so the Rabbi asks, it says in Chassidus, in Kabbalah, and then we learn it's actually based on Psukim in the Torah, that Avraham and Yitzchak were, their whole method of serving Hashem was fundamentally different. Avraham's method of serving Hashem was through the attribute of chesed, of kindness. Avraham was all accepting, was generous to everyone. Even to the Arab that would bow to the dust of his feet. When Sodom was being, when Hashem said Sodom is intolerable anymore, Avraham tried to defend them, tried to protect them. Everyone, he was all accepting for everyone. Yitzchak, on the other hand, it says that Yitzchak's derech, Yitzchak's path in Avodas Hashem, was the exact opposite. Yitzchak is called, has the midah of Gvura. Gvura means very demanding of exactitude, of perfection, of desert. As a matter of fact, this Indian that Yitzchak ben Avraham, Yitzchak, and it says, "Yitzchak Yikorel Chosoran." Hashem says to Avraham that Yitzchak will be called your son, not Yishmael. And Avraham was told to send Yishmael out of the house. And Avraham was very hurt by it. So Hashem said to him, "Yitzchak Yikorel Chosoran." Yitzchak is your son in the real sense of the word. And on the other hand, it says that in terms of the nature of Yitzchak and Yishmael, Yishmael was closer in nature to that of Avraham than Yitzchak was. Yishmael was also had the midas chesed, except his chesed was on the klipa side. But in terms of personality, he was closer to Avraham than Yitzchak was. But even if you leave that out, how is it that we're saying Yitzchak ben Avraham, that Avraham gave birth to Yitzchak? Yitzchak happens to be a different Avraham, but to say it with emphasis that it is that Yitzchak is also representing Avraham. Avraham gave birth to Yitzchak means that Yitzchak is a development of Avraham. Avraham was the cause for Yitzchak to be what he is. That seems to be odd because they were so different. But then the Rebbe points out that as we are saying that Yitzchak, his avodah, his path in life was that of Gvura, at the same time we look in the Pasha itself, we see the way the Torah describes Yitzchak's life seems to also contradict this principle. On the one hand, you learn the Pasha that Yitzchak was engaged in digging wells. This digging of wells sounds like, digging wells. Sounds like a very simple thing. We need water, let's dig wells. This digging of wells represented a very significant aspect in Avodah, of opening up new conduits, new means by which Hashem's hashpah can come to the world. The Torah tells us that right in the beginning, that even in the times of famine, right in the beginning it says, "Vayiro boros," it was a famine. So Avraham, when there was a famine, when there was a hunger, Avraham had to leave the country. He couldn't sustain in Eretz Canaan. Yitzchak was told by Hashem, you should not leave the country, even though it's a famine. And what was the result of that? The result of that, he became immensely wealthy without leaving the country. He became immensely wealthy. Everyone's field was barren. Barren means it dried, it didn't produce, it didn't grow. Mm-hmm. And his grew 100-fold of what could have been in good years expected. And actually, according to one Pshat in Rashi, it's 1,000-fold. He was immensely successful. And he was so successful that ultimately the king of the land, Avimelech, asked him, please leave, because you are embarrassing us. Your wealth is greater than mine. Your wealth supersedes that of the entire country. Now, wealth, I would think that wealth is related to chesed, to openness, to greatness, not to narrow and precision-demanding elements of gvura. And yet, this is what happened, just the opposite. That Yitzchak's success was something which is unfathomable. I mean, completely out of norm, out of a measure. Chesed without a limit seems to be contradicting to the principle that we're saying. And for this, the Rabbi explains very briefly that the principle of Gevura of Kedusha, the principle of Gevura of Yitzchak, is not in order to limit, as would seem to be, to limit the hashpah. But on the contrary, and I'll explain in a moment, on the contrary, in order to elicit a broader and a greater source. So let me explain the whole principle of Gevura for a moment. Chesed and Gevura, in simple sense, in our terms, is as follows. A kid comes to his father, can I have a candy? And the father says, candy? Sure, why not? $1 costs $1. No problem. Kid comes to his father, can I have a bicycle? Bicycle? What's it cost? $200? Sure. Can I have a car? Oh, I don't know, a car. I don't know if I can afford a car. In other words, the whole question in terms of a kind person, the question is, can I accommodate you? And if I can, accommodate, if I can fulfill your request. If I can, sure you can have it. The only limit is if I can't afford it, if I can't do it. That's it. Eisa Chesed. Gvura has a completely different approach. Gvura says, you want a candy? Why should I give you a candy? How do you deserve it? Did you say Meida Ani this morning? Did you wash Negelwasser? Or something like that, You have to deserve what you get. It's not a question of me being affording. The question is whether it's appropriate I should give it to you. I can afford anything. Makes no difference. The question is, do you deserve it? This is basically the difference between the path of Gvura and Chesed. Chesed is, you want it, you can have it. Gvura has a different approach and different judgment. Everything that you get, you have to work for it. Not because I want you to work for it, but because I want you to actually appreciate it and deserve it. Why? And this is the big question. What is it? What is in this Gvura element that he wants Dafkat you should deserve it? I want it, give it to me. What's the difference whether you deserve it or not?
If someone makes a condition that I'll only give it to you if you really want it, is that Gvura?
If you really want it.
Yeah.
No, what does that mean? If I ask for it, do I want it or not do I want it? How are you going to judge whether I really want it or not?
Mashiach, if we really want Mashiach, it'll come.
Well, you're going to a different stratosphere over here.
I'm just wondering about that concept, if it's Chesed or Gvura.
I'm trying to talk to, somebody once asked the Rebbe, a politician once, the Rebbe was talking to him in Eretz Yisrael, and the Rebbe was talking to him about all kinds of different things that the government is doing wrong, and it's misleading the country, whatever it is, and things are not going the right direction. And he is talking to this politician. He says, you should try and correct it. And he's listening to the Rebbe and says, the Rebbe will help. Hashem will help. Hashem will help. Everything. So then the Rebbe turns to him and says, I'm talking to you as a politician. And you're talking to me like a Rebbe. Before we fly, we have to first understand what we're talking about, okay? So he says that so what is the significance of this? Why Gvura? Why apply Gvura? It sounds okay. You're demanding that you should be deserving. What's behind it? Is that all just that because you want to just make it difficult for me to get it? There has to be a positive element in this. What's the positive element behind Gevura? After all, this is our Kedusha, our way of Yitzchak. What's the positive element in this? So the explanation for this is, it's a little bit deeper, but I'd like you to understand that then how it reflects on mass. The explanation for this is like this. The Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya that, the Alter Rebbe in Tanya speaks about a Beinani, but primarily. A Beinani. A Beinani means the common person. Every person is able, according to the way the Alter Rebbe explains, it says that every person is capable, so to speak, to seek to live like a Beinani. And what is a Beinani? A Beinani is not a tzaddik, which means he is not completely purified. He's capable of failing, of having the wrong thoughts, and so forth. Then the Alter Rebbe explains like this. Amongst the Beinani itself, so I'm step back a moment. The primary thing that distinguishes a Beinani from a Rosha is in the fact that the Rosha is capable of failing even all the way down to an actual failing, of doing the wrong thing. A Beinani will never fail down to the action. But he's not purified so that an automatic thought and desire that is not appropriate can possibly come up, but he will not follow through it. He will be able to control himself and do the right thing. That's basically the way the Alter Rebbe explains it that way. So it means that the Beinani is, on the practical level, in terms of how he acts, he's like a tzaddik. He does everything right. But then there is an important ingredient in this. Why does he do everything right? What gives him the strength to guide himself in doing everything right? So the Alter Rebbe explains there could be, generally speaking, two very, very different bases, very different reasons for that. One is, he's by nature a person who is not inclined to great desires. He's not driven. He's kind of into himself. He's not interested in worldly things. And therefore, as a result of that, he does everything right. To put it very simply, a piece of cake, I'm not interested. I don't like cake. A piece of steak, I don't like cake, steak. Whatever it is, I'm not interested. As far as I'm concerned, I'll eat. I can be fed through a intravenous. I'll also be happy. I don't care. The taste of food doesn't entice me. Then there's another, okay, that's, and he's doing everything right? He's living like a tzaddik. So the Alter Rebbe says that this Beinani, who does everything right, is called lo yavodai. He's like a person who never served Hashem. Even though he's doing everything right, but he doesn't really do avodas Hashem. Avodas Hashem is a person who is challenged, who does have all kinds of different koiches and different. He's a fully developed person, and what guides him on the right path, what makes it possible for him to always do the right thing. One principle: he recognizes Hashem's presence, and he really has what's called Ahavas Hashem and Yiras Hashem. And only that recognition of Hashem's presence, this is what guides him in life. Now, and the Alter Rebbe says, when this person, this is the type of Beinani, that's called an Oved Hashem, that's a real Avodah. When a person reflects on the greatness of Hashem and reflects how Hashem's presence is everywhere, and how significant it is and so forth, all the ramifications of that, and on the basis of that, because of that, this guides him in life. This is the real thing. This is the real Avodas Hashem. So, in practical terms, he and the other person are exactly identical. They're both doing exactly the right thing. But in real terms, in the significance of their actions, there's a fundamental difference. Even to the extent that one is called Oived Hashem, and the other one is called Lo Yavod. He never really served Hashem. This will give us an understanding in what we started talking about of a chesed and gevura. If a person just responds with chesed, as we said before, it's no big deal, it's no problem. You want it, you can have it. There is not a personal reaction, personal relationship there. It's not a challenge. It doesn't cost me any money because the cost is insignificant. So you can have it. When there is an interaction means that you have worked for it, you deserve it, and as a result of that, you solicit it. There is a relationship between the father and the son. The father sees how the son is going in the right way, how the son is actually developing and so forth, and he appreciates this. That touches his father in essence. This is not just a question of can I afford it. It touches his father in essence. As a result of that, he gives him, that's a completely different gift. That has real significance. And see, this further explains now, the Rebbe explains it in that sikha, that when in fact the gift comes as a result of that type of solicitation through the gevura, through the effort of the son. So even though he had to exert effort, and it didn't come easily to him, but ultimately when he touches really the essence of the father, and the father responds to him, then the response is much greater than it would have been if it were given normally. This is what the Torah tells us, that Yitzchak was engaged in digging wells. The nature of digging a well is, you stand on the ground and you don't see anything. It's just plain earth. And you start digging. And as you are digging, you sweat, and you are working very hard, and nothing happens. And you continue to dig. Why do you continue to dig? Nothing happens. Because you know that deep, very deep down, there is definitely a vein of water going through. It really depends on your effort. And if you continue and to exert this effort, ultimately you will find the water. What happens when you finally hit that vein of water? When you finally hit that vein of water, then you have a flow of water that is indefinite, that never stops. It's a continuous flow of water. This is called Mayim Chaim, living water. It's not like you take something, you have a reservoir of water, and eventually that will be exhausted. It's not from a reservoir. It's coming from the depths of the earth, and it continues to push out water, and then it comes without any limit. This is what signified when the Torah says that Yitzchok, even though his Aveda was Gvura, his Aveda was through the process of limit and effort. Ultimately, the result of that was that his success was beyond any limit. Because through his effort, he brought out Milmaila from Hashem, a source that is much higher than that which comes from Chesed. This is the basic explanation. And this is what the Rebbe is saying. This is the pshat in the Pasuk. Yitzchok ben Avram hoiled is Yitzchok. Which means to say this, that even though Yitzchok is different than Avram, he's a Gvura and this is Chesed, but the real purpose, the real intent of the Gvura is not to limit and to conceal. The real intent is to reveal, just like Chesed. Except he's going through Gvura in order to reveal that which Chesed would never reveal. That which is hidden beyond the Chesed. Which is hidden deep down in the earth, or deep down in Atzmos. In the Lakus, that he reveals that which would have been concealed, which otherwise would stay concealed. Okay, this is to fully explain this thing and see this that is not the forum now, but this is an important principle to understand, and particularly I want to translate this, how this pertains to us. Everybody knows the meaning of the words Kabbalah's oil. Right? You have to do things with Kabbalah's oil. You heard of it, Moshe? Kabbalah's oil? Never heard of Kabbalah's oil? Kabbalah's oil is accepting the yoke. This is a very common expression. You come to learn, you don't feel like learning. You feel like going to sleep, you feel like taking a walk, you feel like playing ball. Kabbalah says you have to sit down and force yourself and do it anyway. And this general instruction, the general approach, no one can escape that. We always have to engage this principle. Otherwise, we'll always find something else to do. In order to stay on path, in order to stay online, and to continue in the direction that we have to go, we have to employ a certain measure of Kabbalah. Like it says that really the day of the person begins from the night before. If in order to get up in time and to be properly rested for the day, one has to go to sleep in the proper time. And it's extremely challenging. This challenging going to go to sleep on time begins from childhood on. Every mother has to struggle with her kids to go to sleep on time. This is one of the, it begins with, because at the time when you have to go to sleep, you're all excited. You have so many interests, and you don't want to break. You have to break in the middle. You don't want to break away. You're in the middle of doing something. You want to continue. So at the beginning of the next day starts from the night before, and in order to do it right, you have to say stop. You must stop. Already you're not, so to speak, indulging for yourself. You're doing what you have to do. Then when it comes in the morning, of course, to get up in the morning is one of the most difficult things. Then it's justifiably so because you're sleeping. You have to from sleep to get up and break your sleep and all that. I don't have to explain to you. Everybody is very familiar with all of these challenges. Then you go to the next stage. You have to go daven, and you have to concentrate in davening. You have to daven with the proper attention, and so forth. You got to learn. Everything requires a measure of Kabbalah. Everything requires a measure of Kabbalah. Thus, the term Kabbalah, which means accepting the yoke, seems to be carrying a negative intonation, a negative message. You know what negative means? Forget about your mind, forget about your heart, forget about your interests, forget about your likes and dislikes. Just brace yourself and do what you have to do. Now, a negative approach, a negative experience for a human being sounds like a net negative. It cannot bring out a positive thing. I once had the discussion with parents, and these were parents. They had already more or less a grown family, and they were complaining to me. They were saying that I don't understand. We did everything to train our children that they should go in the right way, and it's not working out. It's not working out. Whatever it is, the boy doesn't want to learn, the girl doesn't do its knees, whatever it is, it's not working out the way we want it. So I explained to them that the way they are describing it to me, they told me already what they did wrong. They said they tried to train their children to do the right thing. I explained to them, training, the whole method of training is applicable to dogs. Human beings you don't train. Not even in childhood. Human beings, you have to deal through their intelligence, intellect, and their emotions. You can't train human beings. You're bound to fail. But we are saying Kabbalah Soil. Kabbalah Soil means training, right? Sure. Kabbalah Soil means training. So what's the difference? What's the difference? Yitzchok, right? Gevura, you have to be Kabbalah Soil. So that's what the Pasuk says. Hey, wait, they're missing a whole important point. Avraham hated this Yitzchok. The whole purpose of this Kabbalah Soil, this is not Kabbalah Soil of that training method. Forget about your feelings, forget about your mind, forget about... No. The truth is that the word Kabbalah Soil, that phrase is only half the phrase. It's only half the message. What is the full message? Kabbalah Seil Malchus Shamayim. This is exactly what the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya. It's not Kabbalah Seil. This is a very important principle that many of us miss. We want to be perfect people. I want to be good. So I go and I forget about my mind, forget about my heart. And I limit myself, I, so to speak, forget about I give up on my human qualities. You have to understand, we here, Chassidim, in Torah in general, and Chassidus in particular, Chassidus speaks about avodah, speaks about directing yourself and working very hard on a pneumistic and on a deep personal engagement. There's a counterpart to that. The counterpart to that, and they are very, very successful. The cults. You know how successful the cults are? You take a kid, and in half a year, he becomes a perfect specimen of that cult. Perfect. He does exactly what he is told. And not only that, he gives everything up. If he had any money, he empties his pockets. And he goes around selling flowers on the crossroads. And all the money goes to his cult. Perfect person.
So,
You did it with Yeshiva.
What?
You did it with Yeshiva.
No, we should not adhere to yeshiva. We have to understand, if we focus, I mean, Chas v'Sholom, we are the furthest thing from that, but we have to understand, if we focus for one moment, not on Avodas Hashem, not Kabbalah Seil Malchus Shamayim, to do this because Hashem wants me to do it. And what does it mean to me, Hashem wants me to do it? It has to mean something to me. I reflect on it. It means something to me. I really want to be close to Hashem, and I have good reason why. If I miss that whole phase of it, I just want to be a good person, a perfect person, then we miss on the whole message. Then it's Yitzchok, but not Ben Avraham. It's not Avraham's son. It's not what Yitzchok means to do. Absolutely, there is a necessity to be in control and to be disciplined and to do things right at the right time, and even to the extent of being perfect, but not for perfection's sake. That's not what we're about. It is for the purpose of reaching in to the deeper crevices of our mind, deeper crevices of our heart, and to have a deeper relationship with neighborhood. And then when we sit down to learn, this is something which is, so to speak, a proven path. Like I said, if one responsibly, simply, I'm talking, and these are adults, so it's a little bit insulting to talk to adults about going to sleep. I just want to give us a perspective. Do things right because it's the right thing to do, not in order to think of myself that I did something right. But in order that when I wake up in the morning and I have to learn and daven, I'll have a clear mind. I'll be able to understand what I'm learning. I'll be able to delve into it and to absorb it more deeply. Otherwise, I wake up and I'm still doing the right thing, but I don't know. I'm just saying words. I'm not into it because I'm too tired. But I'm doing everything right. That is absolutely not what we're looking for. What we're looking for, and the whole meaning of Kabbalah say Malchus Shamayim. When one recognizes the meaning of Kabbalah say Malchus Shamayim, and he recognizes actually that Malchus Shamayim, that the Rebbe is his king, then the hashpah that he gets from the Rebbe is unlimited, because he gets it directly from the king. But everything must be with a meaningful, with a human quality to it. So that the discipline, which is absolutely necessary, like we said, the Kabbalah said, absolutely necessary. A person cannot go undisciplined. But what is the purpose of the discipline? What's behind it? So that I'm a disciplined person? No. That's not the purpose. The purpose is, if you're disciplined properly, then you can better concentrate. You can focus better. And then what you learn, you understand better and you go deeper. You don't stop at the surface. You're sensitive, you become more sensitive to the nuances, to the more fine between, what's the expression, between the lines. You understand what's implied, what is this about. What is Yiddishkeit about? What is Chassidus about? What is Torah about? You open up, you become much more sensitive. And on top of it all, this is one of the miracles of Chassidus. Chassidim are disciplined. Chassidim are full of Kabbalah soul. So you would think that they would be always sour and angry and serious, and a smile would be something shunned. How can you smile? You're supposed to be in discipline. What is the fact? The exact opposite. Chassidim are always happy, always ready for a song, always ready for a dance. And if somebody if some to be in a sour mood and anything like that, that's total strange to Chassidim. It doesn't exist. How is it? How did these two things come together? If you have to be in rigid discipline, so you have to be in rigid discipline. How can you be disciplined and at the same time completely open to joy and happiness? And the answer is this very simple principle. Sounds simple, but it's very, very true and it's very deep. The first principle that Chassidim recognize, that everything that I have and all my koiches, all my effort is not self-created. It's not that I'm going to make myself a better person. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to get, no. I'm going to do my best, and then the Mebash's bracha is going to give me success. How is Mebish's Rocha? The koiches, the seichel that we have, the intellect that we have, the emotions that we have, the neshama that we have, this is Hashem's gift. This is Hashem's gift. All we have to do is allow that to surface. Kabbalah soil, the discipline, allows that to surface, allows that to come out. This is how we have in Hasidic Yeshiva, we have this perfect combination. We have the students working hard, very hard sometimes, being fully disciplined to be on time and to do what the right thing to do, but never a sour note. A sour note by Chassidim is considered a Avodah Zarah. Because that means that you're interested in yourself, not in the Meibashter. That's Avodah Zarah. So obviously there's much to talk about this. I'm going to not lay it on very thick, just to point out this very important message. And I hope that we can all utilize this principle. Not to let off on the discipline, not to let off on the Kabbalah soil, but at the same time to understand what its function is and what its purpose is. So that in the Chassidus brings down, the Rabbi actually brings us down in that Sikha also. An interesting reference, an interesting correlation. An Eved means a slave. A slave is the lowest level a person can be. Halachically, a slave is not really a full person. The lowest level a human being can be. But then, it depends who his master is. If he's a slave of a king, Eved Melech, the slave of a king, the slave of a king, he himself is king. Because he represents a king. So we have to understand. We are all the Meibash's Avodim, but we are Hashem's Avodim. And we are not Avodim who are devoid of their intellect, devoid of their emotions, devoid of knowing what they are doing. No, we are Hashem's Avodim. And by being Avodim, Hashem bestows upon us all the richness that Hashem has put into the world is all through us. Because we are Hashem's Avodim. So we go ahead and we do mitzvahs with Kabbalah soil, and that instead of Chas v'Sholom taking away from our human richness, it enriches us. It opens us up. It brings out our neshamas rather than conceal it. This is the pshat in the posuk. Yitzchak ben Avram hated his Yitzchak. The whole union of the Gvura and of the discipline and the Kabbalah soil is in order to bring out even more greatness. Not Chas v'Sholom to limit it. Okay, this is. I'll let you reflect on it yourselves. If you have any kashas, please come. I think this is the message of Chassidus. Of Chassidus Yeshiva. You have to work very hard, not to ease off, and at the same time do it all in great joy.
Work with joy.
Huh?
Work with joy.
Work with joy. How's that?
Okay. If you work at something that you enjoy, if you work at something that which you enjoy, you'll never work a day in your life.
No. That's see that's again that's coming from left field. We know that.
Still cool,
No, we're not limiting it to what we enjoy. We do what we have to do. Absolutely, we do what we have to do, whether we enjoy it or not. And we enjoy doing that which we don't enjoy doing. How do you like that?
You do that. I like it as much. So from what I understood from this is...
I don't know if anybody, can you imagine enjoying crawling on fours looking for crumbs of chametz? Isn't that an enjoyable task?
Was that a hold up?
Some people enjoy it.
Huh?
Some people enjoy it.
Yeah, kids. Yeah.
We enjoy it. That's what I'm saying. We enjoy doing that which is not enjoyable. So, Hatzlacha, have a good evening.
The way I understood it, whatever you do, you should have the goal in mind. You should know why you're doing it. As you said, you should not only go to sleep on time for a better day, you should also know why you're doing it.
You should know one principle. Whatever you do, you're doing it, you're always in the service of Hashem. You're not focused on the person, on the personal perfection. If you do that, you'll be okay. You won't be perfect. You won't be perfect in the eyes of Hashem, not in your eyes. Then you'll be okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. Have a good evening.